Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, here with some editorial comments. Not prediction, but editorial comments on the story that's going around that Timothy Bradley somehow ducked Amir Khan. Amir Khan, I was just reading, has called Bradley a chicken and claims that the reason Bradley didn't want the fight was because Bradley was afraid he was going to lose the fight. Khan has even gone further. And Khan has said that Bradley was offered 50% of the UK pay-per-view revenue, and that Bradley still turned that down. Let me just say that, this story is ridiculous. I think it highlights the gap between fans' expectations and the media narrative and what's really going on in these fighters' lives. Um, Boxing's a business. These fighters are independent contractors. Their first obligation is to themselves and their family. Keep in mind, it's their health on the line. They know that as a group, they have a lower life expectancy. Some of these guys are going to have lingering problems in life, right? Torn retinas, other problems, scar tissue, memory loss, punch drunk syndrome. In other words, the risk to the boxers is as big as it can be. So people need to realize that the money matters quite a bit in boxing. Not just the money you get today, but the money you're getting down the road. It's prize fighting. You're fighting for the prize. The money matters. Fans seem to believe that if a guy signs for a fight where he's guaranteed $1 million and he loses that fight, that somehow he's the loser. While the guy, of course, has just made seven figures, has made more than most of us will make for most of our careers. So Timothy Bradley, all I could say is this. Timothy Bradley has to weigh the risk reward for himself. Understand, he is the guy who holds two belts at 140 pounds. Not Amir Khan, right? Timothy Bradley has already been in a unification fight against Devin Alexander, and he won that fight. Now, as part of his arrangement, he's guaranteed at least $1.2 million in his next fight if he fights an HBO-approved fighter. And so Timothy Bradley, who looks like he's on the verge of joining Bob Arum's top rank group when his contract with Gary Shaw runs out, is going to make $1.2 million his next fight and doesn't have to fight Amir Khan to do it. Right? Not only that, Bradley has opportunities Khan doesn't have. Like Kenny Norton with Joe Frazier in the 1970s, Amir Khan has sparred with Manny Pacquiao. Right? They both have Freddie Roach as a trainer. It's very unlikely that Manny Pacquiao would ever fight Amir Khan for real, simply because the two guys have sparred with each other and have a familiarity with each other. Right? Pacquiao, I'm sure, doesn't want to fight a guy who knows him, where there are no surprises in the ring, where they've sparred together several rounds. Timothy Bradley, on the other hand, is a viable opponent for Manny Pacquiao. In other words, Pacquiao's fighting Juan Manuel Marquez next, but Timothy Bradley, who's already guaranteed 1.2 for his next fight, if he has a tune-up, then he's in line to fight Manny Pacquiao. And understand, Juan Manuel Marquez is guaranteed $5 million for fighting Manny Pacquiao, right? Manny Pacquiao is better, quite frankly, for Timothy Bradley's legacy than Amir Khan. Pacquiao is viewed as the historical fighter. Pacquiao has championships in 8 weight classes, right? Pacquiao right now, is viewed as an all-time great. Amir Khan, for all of his accomplishments, is just starting out relative to Manny Pacquiao. So both from a financial standpoint and from a legacy standpoint, staying viable as an opponent for Manny Pacquiao is more important than fighting Amir Khan in yet another title unification match. Let me point out, too, Amir Khan needs to figure out who he is. For all of this media narrative about who are boxing's darlings and for all of the, allegiance of hardcore fans, I understand a lot of fans always show up to Amir Khan's press conferences. Amir Khan really needs to look at the pay-per-view numbers, right? Forget the media narrative. How popular a fighter is reflected in the pay-per-view numbers. Manny Pacquiao pulls more than 1 million pay-per-view buys for his fights. I believe his last fight against Shane Mosley pulled in more than 1.3 million pay-per-view buys. Amir Khan can't even dream of getting 1 million pay-per-view buys. In fact, for his last fight against Paul McCluskey, the rumor is that that fight only generated about 70,000 pay-per-view buys. So when he turns to Timothy Bradley, who has 2 titles, and he says, hey, I'm offering you half of the UK's pay-per-view buys, that number might well be not that big, right? If the number is in line with the McCluskey fight, then that's not worth the risk-reward for someone like Timothy Bradley. And so, when a fighter doesn't take a fight, that doesn't mean that the fighter is afraid. It might simply mean that you haven't made the fight worth the fighter's time. I understand Amir Khan, has even been talking about fighting Floyd Mayweather. While I agree, stylistically, that would be a hell of a fight. A great fight. At the same time, you have to ask yourself, what's in it for Mayweather? Mayweather is out there fighting the champ at 147, Victor Ortiz. He's not interested in fighting a guy at 140. Let's go further. Mayweather is about legacy. He's unbeaten, right? He is arguably the best pound for pound in the world. He understands that a lot of the public believes that the best pound for pound in the world is Manny Pacquiao. So if he were to try to build on his legacy, a fight with Manny Pacquiao is not only much more lucrative, and understand, as I said earlier, Amir Khan can't even dream of 1 million pay-per-view. It's not only much more lucrative, but it's much more historical. Amir Khan, for all of his gifts, simply is not a contender. He's simply not a contender for the pound-for-pound title with the boxing public. So Amir Khan needs to check himself before he goes off accusing fighters who already are guaranteed million-dollar paydays, who are already in line to fight the Manny Pacquiaos of the world, right? He needs to, who already have HBO deals. He needs to check himself before he criticizes those fighters. Timothy Bradley doesn't need some young guy, trying to call him out when the best that young guy could offer is something like 70,000 pay-per-view, or excuse me, half of a 70,000 pay-per-view pot. I heard that Amir Khan even went further and said that Timothy Bradley doesn't fight in front of big crowds. He needs to figure out then why he's having such a hard time getting on TV in the UK and why less than 100,000 people bought his last fight. Let me also go one step further. You know that Marcos Maidana is actually a mandatory for Amir Khan. If Amir Khan really wants to go around calling people chicken, maybe he needs to look in the mirror, because Marcos Maidana was trying to get a rematch with Amir Khan of a fight that, quite frankly, was a fight of the year candidate. And, of course, Amir Khan has gone off, fought McCluskey. Now he's fighting Zab Judah. He wants no part of Marcos Maidana, even though the first fight was a classic, right? As I said before, we all know a dodge when we see one, and obviously that's a bad dodge by Amir Khan. He's trying to distract attention from himself by defaming Timothy Bradley. All I could say is that's ridiculous. So, to sum up, fighters are going to talk. They're going to try to sell fights. They're going to try to play to their fans, but keep it real. Don't call out a guy who has more belts than you do in your division, right? While you yourself are dodging your mandatory and are trying to fight other guys, right? And when you yourself don't have the purse to split with this fighter to make it worth his while. Timothy Bradley would rather fight Manny Pacquiao, more historical fighter, than fight Amir Khan. And all I could say is in the world of prize fighting, where there's a risk reward, there's a payday where Bradley knows that he can make 3 times more to fight Amir Khan, or, where Bradley understands that he's perfectly situated as an unbeaten champion at 140 to actually fight, the winner of Marquez Pacquiao, or if he gains weight and fights again at 147, and keep in mind he fought Abregu at 147, who knows, maybe he'll get the winner or the loser of Mayweather Ortiz, right? Those are big names. Amir Khan needs to figure out where he is in that ecosystem. It might not be where he thinks. Let me know what you think. These editorial videos always get interesting responses. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here on YouTube. Leave your comments for me on my channel page, youtube.com/DWYER70905, and visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for watching.